everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to my channel. It is totally free and that way you make sure that you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content that we have coming up. Now in today's video, we are going to make a large print and cut. So this is going to be larger than your mat and it is so fun. And you can make these really, really big. We did this really fun Sesame Street character group, but you can really do any image that you want. And I'm going to show you how easy this really is to do. We'll go over all the materials that you need and exactly how to do this with your Cricut. So let's get started.
Whatever we would do it just for fun.
The first thing that you're going to need to do when doing this larger than mat print and cut is to upload your image. So what you're going to do is click on upload and then click upload image. Now you can browse for your image wherever you saved it in your computer. And I just downloaded this one off of Google. So that's just all you really need to do is find an image off Google that you want. So I'm going to use Sesame Street characters just because I thought they'd be really cute, and who doesn't love a good Sesame Street character. So I'm going to click on my image that I want and I'm going to choose complex. Then click continue down in the lower right hand corner. Now we need to remove the background, and I don't really love the background remover from Cricut. I don't think it works really well. So I'm just going to simply click because I think that does a lot better of a job than using the background remover with Cricut. Now I am going to leave this little section of his hair right here just because there's no need to remove it. It won't be noticeable and it'll be kind of a pain to try to cut around that. So now all I need to do is click apply and continue. And then I want to save this as a print and cut image, which is the full color image on the right. Go ahead and click upload. Once your image is uploaded, all you'll need to do is select it and add it to your canvas. We need to resize our design first so that we can make this our larger than life print and cut. This is super fun. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and zoom out a bit, and then I'm going to expand the size of our design. Now I'm going to make it probably about 20 inches wide. That makes it about 22 inches tall. Now what I want to do is I'm going to duplicate this. Because Design Space sometimes has issues if you mess around with the print and cut too much for slicing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and just kind of hide him over to the side, and we'll deal with that guy in just a few minutes. But I'm going to show you first how we're going to slice up our design so that we can print it into the right size prints. So what we're going to do is open up a shape, and we're going to open up a square. Just use a regular sized square. That's all you need to do. Now we want to unlock our square, which is right here in the lower left hand corner. If you click on that lock, it will allow you to change the dimensions of your square. Now I'm going to use actual measurements because we're going to do print and cut, which is 6.75 wide by 9.25 high at the biggest that we can do a print and cut. So what I need to do now is from here is take it over onto my design, and I'm just going to cover up as much of this image as I can without kind of leaving really small areas that it's going to want to cut. So like I don't want to get a little part of his finger in here because if I do that, it's going to have a really awkward cut and it's going to be kind of difficult to keep together and to really place back together itself. Now, first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to duplicate this square so that I don't have to keep remaking it because that's super annoying. Now it's time to select our square here and our printed image, and we're going to go down to the bottom of the screen and click slice. Now, it might take a second to process this because it has to figure out kind of what it's doing. Now, you'll see you have a few pieces. We have the outside gray, which you can get rid of. Then we have this gray part here that we can get rid of. And this is going to look a little disturbing, but we do have Big Bird's head. So I'm going to move Big Bird's head over to the side. I'm going to duplicate my square again, and I'm going to take another part of my square, and I'm going to go ahead and place it over this image. Now again, I don't want to have kind of like the edge of his body kind of getting in the way here because that's going to be an awkward cut. So I'm just going to kind of place it over the Cookie Monster and his hand. And if you ever do that where it accidentally grabs something you don't want it to, just click undo. Now that's, I think, the perfect area to cut. So I'm going to make that square. I'm going to draw it around both, and I'm going to click slice again. Now it's okay if we have a few of our images that don't take up our entire piece of the 6.75 by 9.25 space. Totally okay, not the end of the world. So now you'll see that we have Cookie Monster's head and Big Bird's arm. Now, I will tell you, if you look here, it is giving us this little diamond. I think it's because it's just a little too close to the edge. So when that happens, if you notice that, you'll want to check that every time you slice. You'll see Big Bird's head is fine because he fits within our print area, but this guy doesn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click undo until he's not sliced again, because I want to re-slice that and move it up just a little bit so that it's not quite taking up the entire piece of paper. Go ahead and select it and slice again. And now you'll check over here in your layers panel once you've gotten everything kind of done. Find that sliced part right here, and we don't have that orange triangle. So that's kind of something you want to keep your eyes open for. You just need to make sure that you don't have that little orange triangle. So now we have that part. Now you can turn this if you want to. So I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to cut this next one sideways because I think I'll be able to fit Elmo, or at least most of Elmo. Maybe not. So when you have parts like that, you can kind of move your square around, figure out what works best. But that didn't quite work, and that's okay. We may need to do this in some interesting ways, and that's totally fine, not a big deal. Sometimes you may need to actually slice in some strange directions just to get everything to fit the best you can. So again, I'm just covering this up and clicking slice. Now again, this does take a few seconds to process. That's okay, not really worried about it. Just gonna go ahead and get rid of these parts that we don't need. And then again, I just always double check that sliced piece right here to make sure that we don't have that triangle. Now you'll see that this is on top, and that's why it keeps wanting to grab it. So what I'm gonna do is just drag this down to the bottom of my screen to get it out of my way, because I do need to move him over. And I'm just making a pile of all of our pieces so that we just have those out of the way. Duplicate that again, and now I think I can fit Elmo in here, and I'm gonna have a little weird cut on Grover, or on I know their names, I swear, on Oscar's garbage can, but I'm not super worried about that because it'll be easy to piece it together, and it's not a tiny cut, so I think it'll be okay. So again, draw that square and slice. Now remember, you can only slice 2 images at once, so you're not going to be able to slice multiple squares all at the same time. You can only slice it one at a time, but that's okay. This is super easy to do, and you'll notice that this constantly wants to go to the top of your screen. Don't worry about it, just kind of play around with it. Either you can right click on it and send it to the back, or you can right click on it and send it to the front. You can do all sorts of things, but I like to just drag and drop it over here. So now we've got a few more pieces that we need to slice out. So I want to kind of try to get this garbage can. And like I said, we're going to have some odd pieces because of the size of our design, but I don't want really small pieces. I would rather waste a little bit of paper than have to try to slice together really, really little images. So I'd rather just kind of have some that are smaller than others, and we might actually be able to fit some of these together on our paper. So it's just a matter of kind of playing with the slice, seeing what's going to fit, what you can work with. Now these ones, we can most definitely turn these ones sideways. So I'll just kind of sideways it, and you can see, look at how much we can actually fit on that. So we'll do it that way. Select both items, and again, always click slice. This is just a sort of a slow process, but once you get it done, it's so fun. This is going to be really cute once you put it all together, and I just love making these. So we have one last piece here, and it is going to be a little bit big because we do have a little piece probably that we missed a slice on up towards the top. I'm not really concerned about it. I will just go ahead and re-slice this out. It's not a big deal. I'm not super concerned. It'll be fine. And it is a little bit too big anyways. So I think for putting it together purposes, I'm going to slice it like right here because I can leave this one, and I think that'll hide a seam really nicely. So I'm just going to go ahead and slice those two apart. And you'll just need to, again, give it a second to process. It does take a second. And then we have this little piece, but again, there's something up there at the top that must not have sliced out fully. I'm not, again, very worried about it because we'll just take and slice this guy out. You don't even need to measure because he is so small. We can literally just take a square, fit it over him, select the whole thing, and then slice. And then you'll see that what you're going to end up with is the perfect little spot right here. you'll have just this little piece that'll slice out. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these gray things. And then we'll need to find that weird piece right here. Yeah, see something, we missed a little edge. That's okay. I'm just going to delete. Now, you'll see you have all of your pieces parts. Just going to leave those in a pile. I want to make an offset for our image that we can cut out with paper. That's why we kept this other image whole over on the other side. So let's go ahead and pull him over. So now what I want to do is create an offset on this. So all I need to do is select the word offset here. And I don't need a really large one. I usually go like maybe 0.15, but it really just depends on how you want your design to look. It's up to you. You can kind of do whatever makes you happy. However you want it to look is how you do your design. So this can take a few minutes to process. So just give it a little bit of time. And once it processes, you can change your measurement and then it'll measure it back down or up or however you want it to look. So again, this does take quite a few minutes to process through Design Space. It's been a little slow and sometimes it'll like jump around because I did accidentally type the 1 first. So I think that's a good offset for this. I think that's plenty of space. So I'm going to go ahead and click Apply. Once I click Apply, I'm left with this black outline. I can get rid of the full print and cut because I don't need it anymore. And now we need to slice this apart because this is going to be the outline, like our backer piece for our print and cut. I'm going to do this on 12 by 12 sheets of white cardstock. Now, just keeping in mind that Design Space can only cut 11.5 by 11.5 or 11.5 by 23.5. So I'm going to make my square 11.5 and that's going to give me a lot of space to work with for my slicing purposes. Now again, I kind of want to try not to like do things where I'm going to slice poor little Elmo's arm off by itself because again, I don't want to have to try to piece that back together. So just like what I did with the print and cut, selecting both items and clicking slice. Now, I should have duplicated my square first. I didn't, but that square is so easy to redo. I'm not real concerned. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my gray pieces. And you'll see here that now I have these little black pieces. Now, it does have a little spot right here that I clearly missed. I'm not worried about it. That's just the offset, and it's so small that it's not going to matter that I missed it. So again, I'm just going to reopen my shape, grab my square, make it 11.5 by 11.5 just by changing the measurements up at the top. Then I'm going to go ahead and this part I'm going to slice a little off because this makes it easier to line things up if you've got them just a little off from each other. So then I'm just going to go ahead and slice. And it's really okay if these don't take up the entire space of your design. That's completely fine because I'm actually going to slice the rest of this up a little bit differently using smaller shapes so that I don't end up with like really weird Elmo parts because again, I kind of want to make sure to try to keep his arm together and I want to try to keep Big Bird's arm attached as well. So what I'm going to do here, and it's like I said, this is just so easy to do, and you can just do this in your own sizes and shapes so that you don't have to piece together little parts. So you can see here, I'm going to cut all of Elmo out, but again, I accidentally grabbed that and I didn't want to do that. So again, I'm just going to drag and drop and slice. And again, you'll end up with a piece of Elmo that's going to be whole. So instead of having all these like little parts, you're going to have the Elmo. Now, if you don't want to cut that little spot out, it's fine. It's just going to cut out and I'm not really worried about it. I'll just ignore it. So now I have this big part of Big Bird that I just need to pretty much chop his head off. So what I'm going to do is again, just open a shape, grab a square. And once I chop his head off, he should be just fine as far as sizing is concerned. So again, I'm just going to give him a nice little choppy chop. I'm going to slice him. And then we'll have all the parts that we want to cut out using our white cardstock. This is, again, just the backer. Now, you'll notice that all the black pieces are listed as a print and cut image. Go ahead and just select all the black pieces. Under operation, just change them back to basic cut. It'll change the color, but that's going to have all of your parts ready to go. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to click Save because I don't want anything to happen to this. So I'm just going to call it Sesame Street Print and Cut, and then I won't lose it. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Save. That way, if anything happens after we hit Make It, we're okay. Now, click Make It, and I'm going to show you what your Make It screen looks like because it's going to be a little bit crazy, but don't worry. We got this. So now what you'll see is we have our big bird, and then we have all of our different print and cut pieces. You'll see here, this is that little piece of the garbage can that we cut out, and you'll notice that I can actually move it around on my screen a little bit, and that for me is kind of important when they put them a little too close together. You can also tend to fit smaller pieces up, where you don't really care if they print and cut correctly, all sorts of things. But you'll see now that we have all these different print and cut parts that we need to take care of. I think it's going to be really fun. And then down here are all of our pieces that we're going to cut on our 12 by 12 sheets of cardstock. Now, again, if you think that you can fit other things, go ahead and try to. I think they did a pretty good job. This piece might fit under Big Bird, but I don't think so. There's just not quite enough room. So what we're going to do from here is get ready to print and cut all of this on our cardstock. So now that we're ready to print, it will print these in an order once you're ready. So what you're going to do first is click continue, and it's going to bring up this screen here. Now, my machine will be a maker. I'm just going to use the regular maker. But what we're going to do is click right here where it says send it to printer, this green box. The first thing that you'll want to do is once it loads is select your printer that you're going to use. So I'm going to use my ET2720, which is an inkjet printer. I'm going to leave my bleed on, and I am going to use my system dialog. The system dialog is going to pull up your printer settings. These are really important to make sure that you get the best print possible from your image. So again, I always double check and make sure the correct printer is selected over here. And then what you're going to do is click on preferences. It's going to bring up a couple of great options here that we're going to want to use to make sure we get this awesome print. First thing you're going to want to do is go from the quality here, from standard to high. The next thing you'll do is go into more options and turn off your high-speed print. Simply click OK, then click print. It's going to print out this first page. You'll need to do this for each of the pages that you're going to print, so you want to make sure that you go in, turn on that system dialog, and use that so that you don't get any lines or ickiness into your print. The first thing that we need to do is to load our paper onto our mat. So in this case, we need to make sure that our mat and our paper are both very straight. So I like to just make sure that everything's lined up pretty nice and neat. Now you can see this is very not straight the way I just did this. So I always just recommend trying to get it as straight as you can. I don't know how much that actually affects the Cricut, but I like to just try to get it pretty straight just to be safe. That's pretty good. So once we've done that, what we're going to need to do is select our cut setting. Now this is kind of a medium style cardstock. So I'm going to choose medium cardstock on my Cricut, and then we're going to go ahead and load this picture into the Cricut to cut. It's going to take a second, and then it will eventually connect to our Bluetooth, and then it is going to load here and tell us that it's ready to cut. Click the little C button here, the little logo. It will pull this in, and it's going to read the different lines on it. So it's going to read these registration marks all around it, and then it's going to cut around our design. We'll do that for each of our images, and then we can cut out the backing paper. Now that we've cut out all the print and cut pieces, we are going to use some 12 by 12 65-pound cardstock, and I'm just using the color white. You can use whatever color you want, and this is going to be like our backer, so we'll put this together. It's basically just like putting together a puzzle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this on my mat and make sure that's held down pretty nicely. We'll go ahead and load, and it's going to be just like doing the print and cut, except this time all it's doing is cutting. So it's just going to read our tool, it's going to cut around our images. Then what we'll do is I like to use a little pen to kind of mark the back or the front, and in this case I'll mark the front of it just so it makes it easier when lining it up. what I like to do before I unload, because I know for a fact that this is the front of it, I will usually just put like a little line. You don't have to do anything crazy, you don't want to do anything too nutty, but nobody will see it, so it's just a super helpful way to keep track of which side is the front of your design versus which side's going to be the back, because it's just going to make it a whole lot easier when you go to put it together. So now that we have everything cut out, our next task is to basically puzzle piece this together. So what I find super helpful is I will usually open up my design space again and take a look at what my original image looked like. So you can simply just do that on your computer, and it just makes it a little bit easier to see what your original image was. I also will sometimes just upload that original image back into my design space just so I can really see what I'm looking at. It just really helps you figure out your shapes and all of that. So I know that this is going to be Cookie Monster's arm and Big Bird's arm, and then his hand will go right up here. So that makes me say that this piece here, having an edge to it, looks like it's probably the side of Oscar the Grouch. So I do believe that piece goes right here. And we have Big Bird's head for sure, which is going to go up here. Now again, this is a pretty big project, so you may need to kind of play with it. Now Elmo is going to be a little different because he's a little sideways. So we have everything kind of pieced together. You can kind of get the idea of the shape of your design. Now for this part, I just use a little bit of Scotch tape. I find that the Scotch tape works great to hold everything together. You're really not going to see it. You can always flip it over so that the Scotch tape is on the back if you wish to. It's truly up to you and how you want to do it. A lot of times I do like to do it on the back. So what you can just simply do is just flip all your pieces over and just move them so that they all line up again. Now, it's not, rocket science. This is basically just like doing a puzzle. So it's very, very easy to do. The hardest part is to make sure that everything lines up. So what I'll do is I'll start with one section of my design. So I like to start with just like a simple section that's just going to line up perfectly together, which is this little section of Cookie Monster and Big Bird's arm. I grab a little piece of tape, and what I'm going to do is I just want to make sure that everything is nice and straight and even, and then I just put a little piece of tape across the seam. And don't worry if your seam kind of moves a little bit. Sometimes that happens when you tape it down. Not a big deal, and that's kind of the nice thing about using Scotch tape. You can pop it right back off and redo it, because sometimes it does like to shift a little bit when you're holding on to it. So just take your time and don't fret if it moves a little. You can absolutely adjust it. Not the end of the world. But like I said, I just like to kind of make sure it's really well held together, and then I just throw some tape on it. Now, you're going to want to make sure that your seams stay together through the whole thing. So I like to go all the way to the edge here, and I'll put some tape over here, and then I'll make sure that I retape that corner that I kind of untaped. And you can fully tape your seam if you want to. Again, completely up to you. So then I'm going to put this next piece in. And again, we're going to want to make sure we get this really well seamed. If it's not 100% perfect, it is okay, because you're going to have that print and cut above it, like on top. So nobody's going to notice if one of your seams is just a little bit off, and it won't be completely noticeable once it's all put together. Now again, I do really like just using plain old Scotch tape for this. If you're going to be using cardboard, I would use maybe a little bit of a heavier tape, but Scotch tape works great for using just cardstock on this. And you can see how easy it all just goes together, just like a little puzzle. Now when you have a seam like this where it's got multiple pieces, I do like to just kind of cross over all of those seams and just give it a little bit of tape. Now if you want to add more stability, I would cut this maybe on poster board and not on just cardstock. But honestly, we're not really too worried about it for this one. since we're just showing you how to make it. So I think doing it on cardstock for mine is fine, but you can definitely use poster board or cardboard. So as you can see, I have just one more little piece left, and it's Big Bird's head. So I just want to make sure I get tape across that little corner of seaming right here. And then I want to make sure that I get a good piece of tape across his neck. His head's kind of big, so we'll just get that a good piece of tape. And now you have your entire design all taped together. Now again, if you want to add a little more stability, you can kind of put some tape on this side if you want to. And I will sometimes tape where it's got multiple seams going together. So like right here where Elmo and Big Bird kind of match, and then this little middle section, I will usually give those an extra piece of tape. So now we're ready to put our print and cut on. For our print then cut section, I like to use double-sided tape, but I always pre-fit my design together so that I can make sure everything fits on to my backer and that everything is where it belongs. So remember, we did do an offset, so you are going to see a little bit of white around it, but that's okay. That's the way we designed it. Now I'm going to slide this over because that goes with this guy. And then we have this part, which is gonna, again, it's just like putting together a puzzle. So it's super easy, especially when you have print and cut, to see what you're doing. And I like to really piece this together before I do any taping, just so that I make sure that everything is right where it belongs, everything came out in the correct order, and everything looks really nice. So this doesn't have to be perfect right now. And then this is definitely this part of the trash can, so that goes over here. Here's the bottom portion. And then we of course have Big Bird's head, and I do have his two feathers that go on to the top. So you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. So now, before we do anything else, I do the same kind of idea, where I'm gonna use my Scotch tape, and I'm gonna actually tape them from the back, and then I'm gonna double-sided tape them onto the design once they're all together. So again, we just flip them over, and it's really simple to match them up because you already know basics of where they go together, so you don't really need the picture. Now, I will say you might want to be a little careful with the trash can down here, just to make sure that it's facing the correct way, but you can kind of get an idea. You see how they're fitting together in that little order. So I'm going to slide the big pieces over, and let's go ahead and start with this small section, and we can start taping this together. So you're going to do it just like you did the bottom layer, and you're just going to use a little bit of matte Scotch tape. And again, I just like to make sure everything is really well lined up. Like I can see right here, this is not lined up perfectly. And I just want to make sure everything's lined up. And then again, I'm just going to use a little bit of tape on the seam. And then I'll do the same thing down here. I'm going to make sure these are all lined up really nice and neat, and some tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and tape this seam up here. And I'm going to tape this seam down here. And that'll hold it together enough so that when we put the double-sided tape on it, you'll be able to kind of put it all down really easy. So then you can just start kind of moving along with your pieces, just like you did for the top section. So I'll go ahead and get all of this taped together since you saw me do the top section, and then we can flip it over and we'll double-sided tape it. Alright, now you see that you have your design all put together, so it's all one piece, and we have our backer. So this is the backer, and then here's the front piece, and again, I do have his little feathers. I think I need to put those on separate. So now what I want to do is, because again we used that small offset, we're going to just line this up so that we can kind of see where it needs to sit so that our offset looks correct. That looks pretty good. So what I like to do is I use double-sided tape. I just got this from Target, super cheap, really easy to use. And I just am going to grab a small piece of this double-sided tape, and I'm going to hold this down and lift up one side over here and just put a little double-sided tape down under Cookie Monster. And then I'm going to do another piece, and I'm just going to hold down kind of the center here at the bottom. And this is just to get it started. So you'll add more tape, but don't worry, this is just to hold it down since we got it lined up where we want it. And we're just going to tape the bottom section first. So that way we have everything kind of where it needs to be. So once I have that bottom section, I like to flip it around so it's backwards. And then I'm going to grab out some more tape. And this really doesn't take a ton of tape, which is sort of nice. But I will give it a few spots of tape just kind of randomly throughout this portion. So what I can do is I can fold this guy over, and I always just like to hold it down because sometimes it'll try to flop back on me. And I will just place some tape just sort of all around this section so that we can make sure it's well held down. And you just want to make sure you get these edges too, like right where his kind of trash can is going to be, but you don't want to get so close to the edge that your tape is going to stick out onto the offset. So let's go ahead and get all of our tape placed, and then we can put our print and cut down, and it will be all finished. So here is the finished image. I think it came out really, really cute. This was really simple to do. You guys saw it really only took me maybe total time an hour, and it's super vibrant and really, really fun. Now again, make sure that you're using your print preferences settings to make sure that you get a really good high quality print from this, and use a good quality photo as well. If you're using something that's super grainy to begin with, it's gonna come out super grainy when you print it, especially when you print it super large. So just make sure that you're taking some of those little tips and tricks into account. Now again, you can put this on a thicker, heavier backer so that it'll stand up on its own, but this is also great just to hang on a wall. Lots of fun things that you can do with the larger than matte print and cut projects. I hope you guys will make some really fun stuff, and if you do, be sure to tag me on all of the different social media that you can find right here. I'm on all of them, and I would love to see what you guys make with my tutorials. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.